Comparative and International Education Research Center at the University of Bristol. He has also been editor for several journals on comparative international education. And you might be wondering why I'm not introducing him. He's been a dear colleague and one of my examiners in my PhD advisor, and he's been instrumental for my success up to this point. So thank you so much, Michael. So his visit to the Maldives is something very valuable to me. So I thought we would ask you to share one of his latest papers on comparative and international education with you, so that you might see where I get my inspiration from. So I'll let Michael take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shimi. That's a really nice, kind introduction. It's lovely to see people here. It's great to be back in the Maldives as well. Thank you to the Vice-Chancellor for the invitation, and then two other people. Of course, one of them is Shimi, who's just been speaking. Thank you to Shimi, but also to a colleague who can't be here today and was planning to be here, and that is Muna, who many people would know, Emeritus Muna. So those are my sort of starting words, but yes, it's a pleasure to be here. We've got the slides there, and I think I prefer to walk around as I'm talking to the different bits of the presentation. But there's a photograph of the University of Bristol where Shimi did her doctorate. Down at the right-hand side, I can use this little pointer, I think, if yeah, there. That building there is the School of Education in the University of Bristol. Let me go straight away to the aims of the presentation. Because of the nature of the timing we're in and where we're at today, we're going to try to, Shimi and I have talked about this, we're going to try and condense the presentation, make the whole session roughly within an hour, so that I'll try to talk to the slides for about 40 minutes and give enough time for people to ask any questions if they want to do so. But I'm also going to be here for other days as well. So if people want to follow up and catch me later to talk about something or ask a particular question, there's chances then. And I'm happy, while I'm in the Maldives, to help in any way I can with anybody with their projects or plans or ideas. What I'm wanting to do today, the title is really Challenges for Comparative and International Research in Education, and then learning from the Maldives is in the back of my mind, but learning from small states in general, wherever they might be found in the world, including the Maldives. Sounds like we've got that sorted, I think, now. Maybe I can go, but yeah, I can. So there are three aims that I've put up there to look at what are the global challenges, the key global challenges that are facing and tensions currently being faced by comparative and international research in education and anybody who does that type of research. Secondly, to consider the implications of that for education and educational research, and that topic, that theme that people have probably encountered a lot, sustainable development, but sustainable development for the Maldives and for other small island developing states. And that's where I've got that acronym from, SIDS. It's not one that I'm created myself, or I'm not even so comfortable with it, as you'll see later, but it is a globally used phrase, used by UNESCO. I'll give you a little bit more detail on that in a moment or two. So it's a UNESCO origin, small island developing states. And then thirdly, to discuss how the international community, and I think this is my main theme, can learn from the experience of small island developing states, can learn from places like the Maldives, rather than the other way around, which a lot of the international literature tends to do, with consultants, theories coming from the north, from the west, from whatever labels we use, and somewhat uncritically, maybe not connecting to the different contexts in which they might be being applied. So I'm trying to turn that position on its head a little bit. So what are some of these contemporary challenges? Well, one, And I'm going to gloss across some of the words there. Read it if you can, but I'll try to pick out the big points. That's dominating a lot of the theoretical literature at the moment is the process of decolonization. It seems to be there in the media, it's there in the literature, it's there across all disciplines, social sciences in particular. But I'm going to be looking at how things such as decolonization challenge the origins and the history of the field of research and other fields and disciplines. And secondly, to look at the concepts of international education and sustainable development. They are often seen to be very beneficial, with a lot to gain from work in those areas, using those concepts and terms. But they're also seen today by some as implicated with modes of ongoing Northern or Western neocolonialism, if you want to use that phrase. Thirdly, another set of challenges related to the implications for educational futures, educational development cooperation, environmental uncertainty, climate change, the different types of research we might do. I've used the word modalities, equality, identity. The words, there are so many that are in the literature at the moment. Challenges. What do these challenges mean for people doing comparative or international research in education? And how best might we grapple with those things? This slide, there's a lot of words there, but if I was trying to simplify this, I would say that the challenges that are around today do sound a little bit like they've only just arrived, maybe just arrived since the George Floyd events in the United States. And it's true, those things had a massive effect in terms of the media, the public engagement, bringing those sorts of issues right to the front of many people's discussions. But in comparative and international research in education, those challenges are really important. But I do want to add a little cautionary note, and that's this slide, and that is a field such as comparative and international education has spent decades, more than decades, hundreds of years, reflecting upon itself and trying to engage critically with international cross-cultural issues and developments. And so it is a field that deserves critique. The decolonial challenge is important, and we need scholars that do critical work within our field to challenge the field itself, to revisit its history, its origins, and so on. But it is a field that's been doing it itself periodically over different periods of time. I think that's the main message of that particular slide. A recurring theme of disciplinary reflexivity, thinking about, looking at yourself, the field looking at itself. Certainly more needs to be done. I'm going with that argument, but saying we mustn't ignore some of the good work that's been done in the past. Just giving a couple of examples. This is a journal that I was editor for just about a decade. I still work for the journal. I've been on the editorial board for a long time. But in the year 2000, it was a benchmark year. Many fields and disciplines produced, published books, journal special issues, and so on, saying, how is our field doing? What have we done in the past? What are we doing now and into the future? It could be in engineering, it could be in sort of medical science. All fields tended to use the millennium, the year 2000, to do that. Comparative education did. So that's just an example of something you could look at if you wanted to read a bit into these things that I'm saying. And that would be 2 special issues of comparative education in the year 2000, the benchmark year. There's another very well-known book that looks at the history of comparative education across the globe. I'm just using that as another example. I think that was published, 2007. But it's all I'm trying to show here is this is a field that has looked at itself, critiqued itself many times over different periods of history, and it should be doing it now in the decolonial times. the contemporary decolonial critique times. Little bit here about my own work. There's a copy of a book I published with a colleague called Keith Watson from the University of Reading. It's some time ago, but I think the subtitle, should I say, of the book is important. And I'm using that subtitle to show how even in my own work we've been reflecting upon those sort of the critical reflexivity embedded within that book. And the subtitle sort of illustrates it, because if you can read it there, it says globalization, which was the big theme around